John.
Oh, Nick, what are we doing here? We ran out of books. When is Rowling going to write another book? What is this about? We can't go on with the series.
I just want to check, has Joe sent you that advanced copy yet?
No. And have you received an invitation to the Conrecki party?
No, not yet. Well, we finished all the books, and we've got 7 episodes left to do.
Really professional help in that office. They can't find out where we live. I mean, seriously, this couldn't come express mail. What's that about?
I'm pretty sure her security team, if they want to know where we live, they can find out where we live.
Yeah, and maybe there's a camera inside my office. in my garage here. They finally wired my garage. They're really good because they left the lock secure outside the door. I don't know how they're doing. Anyway. Well, the invisible duo here.
Well, one of the things we did say we were going to do is for the rest of the shows we've got left to do, we were going to invite questions. Is there anything people wanted to find out more about? And there was one for Golden Threads. Now, we've mentioned it. We haven't really gone into this series into any depth. Should we do an overview of Golden Threads?
Seriously, I don't know if it was Aurora or Brian or one of the people that are actually answering our questions. Thank you in the comment threads. But yeah, the Golden Threads is something that really came up as an issue in our Rolling Studies podcast, where I did a search for. I said, okay, if Rolling Studies in the 4th generation has to be looking at the work as a whole, all the 21 books, whatever number we came up with, let's choose something that is that way, and then just go through all the books and see if there's actually one of these threads is that way. And the first one that I looked at was pregnancy traps. And Nick, I confess you weren't really on board with this project.
I was skeptical. I think that's true to say. I was skeptical, and if they're we haven't got much time to go through all of these Golden Threads today, but have a listen to Pregnancy Traps on Rolling Studies podcast. It's a little long, but I think it needed that space just to dig into how frequently that topic, when you look for it, shows up. It convinced me utterly. Well, yeah, you went from skepticism to finding things that I'd missed, especially like in Casual Vacancy, where you blew my mind with the, there's it. That's really what Rolling Studies has to be doing right now, is looking at the work as a whole. I mean, everyone's excited about Hallmark Man. We're excited about Hallmark Man, but we're not joining this time in all of the kind of frenetic interpretation of Twitter headers and stuff to figure out where she's going to get our bullseyes. Now, and I invented that game, so please, if you feel I'm mocking you on that point, okay, it's I'm looking in the mirror, but that. We've pulled back from that to say, look, there's more important projects right now in Rolling Studies than falling into Rolling's marketing team's excitement about the next book and boosting their sales. We're not on the Rolling payroll. Doggone it, Nick. I mean, I've been looking for that check in the mail too. There's no checks in the mail here. Look, if there's anyone from the Rolling team that's listening and wants to put us on the payroll. Of course, they haven't got our address. Maybe we should flash our address at the end of this, Nick, so they can contact us. Anyway, what needs to be done in Rolling Studies right now is to go through all of these Golden Threads and do that. Now, I woke up this morning because we just, you want to talk about seat of the pants? This is seat of the pants. What do they want us to do? Well, this person said Golden Threads. So how about we get a list of Golden Threads? And I had said in the original post for this, we had the 7 lake and shed elements. There's 4 in the lake and there's 3 in the shed, with a lot of overlap. And I said that there were 7 keys or tools in the shed, and everybody's heard me talk about those endlessly.
And then I said there were 12 golden threads. And so, but I don't think I ever wrote them out. I don't think I don't think I ever wrote them down. So I got up this morning and said, wow, 12 golden threads. What are we going to do? And I came up with 14, which is great because that means you get 7 and I get 7, and we have that magic number there, right? We get it's sort of like sextrology. They took the 12 signs and made it into 24. Male and female, Scorpio. And so so we're going to play ping pong here. I hope that I'm going to throw out one of these golden threads, and I'm going to say, okay, Nick, give me 3 examples off the top of your head.
Yeah.
Look for the golden daddy long legs. The other day I was in here and I came in and besides giving blood to the mosquitoes that are in here, we're meeting a little earlier today. It's quite cool in here today. The sun hasn't started to beat on the top of this building, but that I'm looking forward to this match here. And I hope that if I can't come up with 3 for my things, that you'll jump in and say, well, how about this? And please, Nick, let's not try to score points on the Dean of Harry Potter Scholars. I know we're in the shed and I should be doing all 14 of these points, but let's see. I think anybody really that's a Rowling reader, Potter pundit, serious striker, but can if I bounce past these subjects to you, you would come up with at least 3 examples. What needs to be done is to go through and just fine comb every book and see how many there actually are.
I guess one question would be why are we sharing this? I mean, it's a lake thing, isn't it?
Oh my goodness!
But I think
we haven't even talked about why we're here. We haven't talked about why we're here. Conrecki or whatever. Can we do that in 3 seconds?
I think so. So it's J.K. Rowling's 60th birthday on the 31st of July, a birthday she shares with Harry Potter. She's going to be 60, which is very important in Japanese culture. It's called the Kanreki. Essentially, they've gone through the Japanese astrological calendar of 12 astrological animals and 5 Chinese elements to give a calendar of 60 years. When you reach your 60th birthday, you've reached the point in the calendar that you joined that calendar and you are ready for your rebirth or your second life. So we thought we would celebrate that, which we've done by giving a lake and a shed reading of each of her published works. What do we mean by lake and shed? Well, that's J.K. Rowling's metaphor for her creative process. The lake is where she reaches in, or she is handed her inspirational ideas. So it's inspiration from the lake. She takes that idea that is drawn from her life experience, her subconscious, her unresolved issues, all the things she's read, and she takes that to her shed. In the shed, she applies her literary tools. So this is the perspiration bit. This is where she takes that inspiration, she works on it until she creates the literary pieces that we all know and love. Now, golden threads, it's a thread, it appears repeatedly in her works. So it is certainly attached to that lake inspiration, but it's also a tool, I would argue. So it is a bit lakey and a bit sheddy. So if she has an idea or a story that she's working on and she needs a situation to have a bit more tension or to connect with the audience a bit closer, then these golden threads are one of the tools in her literary arsenal that she can say, well, I know that works. So I think it's a bit sheddy, and it's certainly the inspiration has come from her lake. How's that? I think that was a little bit over 3 minutes.
But very close, very close. That's the fastest we've done so far. That's great. I try not to interrupt you. You were in the flow there, the Conrecki flow. I wonder if people now just pull the bar across. So they've been watching all along. They're like, all right, here we go. Can we get to it? All right, I especially enjoyed that last point, that the golden threads are, the things that appear in almost every work.
Yeah.
And if they don't appear, it kind of makes you shake your head. Like, there's no mothers really in Fantastic Beasts. I mean, it's kind of a weird. How can there be no moms in Fantastic Beasts? Everybody's an orphan, Anyway, that shows that this is part of the inspiration, and yet the way that she chooses to change that, it's not just, well, I'm going to start off with bad dad, and you can tell me how much you think that is just, her continually burning anger about her abusive father, and how much of that is now like a trope that she uses to talk about psychological depth and complexity.
Yes.
So I'm gonna bounce that first shed challenge.
Okay.
Talk to me about the bad dad golden thread.
Okay. So there are so many bad dads. There are so many poor fathers in her works. It gives me the opportunity to narrow it down. So we know J.K. Rowling grew up in a small family, in relatively modest house, close to a manor house, with a big class difference between the two. We had a dad who appears to have a lot of failings, but was socially anxious, or believed he had not achieved the status that he deserved. So I can just pick out three of those examples, and I did it earlier when we were looking at I think Casual Vacancy. So if we go through her major works, we've got Harry Potter. Well, there's Marvolo Gaunt in exactly that situation. He was a pure-blood wizard. He didn't have the status he thought he deserved, living in humble surroundings with a small family right next to a manor house. Then we've got Casual Vacancy. The next,
but again, the abuse of Maropi Gaunt is the core crime of the thing. The bad dad is the core crime of the series.
Yeah. So if we look at the foundation crime, what kicked all this off, it's Marvolo Gaunt being a bad dad. We've got Simon Price in Casual Vacancy. Working man, not achieving his dues as he believed it to be, in a fairly modest house, living outside the village and close to a manor house with a small family. We go to, in fact, we can just look for manor houses. So where's the next manor house? Well, that's Chiselhouse. And then we've got Jack of Gaunt with a small family. Now, we don't know whether he was getting his just desserts, but he was a cabinet maker by trade. So he was a skilled carpenter, and he was working as an odd job man for the big manor house that was right next door to him. So each of those almost exactly mirror the circumstances of J.K. Rowling growing up.
And the bad dad element, I mean, it really came to the fore. I think was it in the Lev Grossman interview where she said, "Look, all the bad stuff happens here because of, dads not doing their jobs." And she whispered it like it was kind of like a dirty secret. And she only saved Mr. She was going to kill Mr. Weasley too. She's killing them all off, That's the bad dad thing. Almost all of the criminals inside Cormoran Strike have bad dads, like crazy bad dads. And that's again her trope. Okay, so you passed your test.
So that's bad dads. But if we've got bad dads, what about the moms? What are the mothers doing?
Okay, I can't. There's no Mrs. Gaunt. This is kind of. I mean, you have to go and look at the different things here, but really, and I've talked about this a lot with the Christmas Pig thing, especially that Christmas Pig was the one that really broke the code on mother's love. Mother's love is in Rowling's work, now if you look at Mrs. Price, Simon Price's mom, you get an enabling woman that allows the serial abuse of her children because she's afraid of her husband. Now, that's not a very flattering picture. If we assume Simon Price is Peter John Rowling, this is quite the not a very flattering picture of Anne Vallant in Mrs. Price. But Rowling has taken, I think, not only her experience of her mother's love as a child as being the sustenance of her house, but her experience as a mother herself, that it changed her life as much as Margot Bamborough claimed that having children changed her perspective on all things feminist. What Mother's Love becomes in the work of J.K. Rowling is the symbol, the go-to touchstone of the love of Christ, which is this love, which is the power that brings everything into existence, really. And it's sacrificial, it's selfless, and it's unconditioned. The way that a mother's love for her child, as a rule, is that way. And that touchdown in Harry Potter, I mean, Lily Potter, she dies. She literally just says, anything you want. He goes, well, I'm going to kill the baby. Oh no, she dies in front of him, takes the blast. And Narcissa Malfoy kind of is, she lives, but she's willing to die to save Draco, especially in Deathly Hallows. You see that really come to the fore. Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows, you see Narcissa, and really her just, she's a wicked, nasty person and woman. But in terms of her love for her child, takes a first place right up there with Lily Potter. And then you have Lita Strike and Joan Nancarrow. Joan Nancarrow is not a mother per se. No. And yet both Lucy and Cormoran really feel that she is that mothering figure, and that she would do anything. She's kind of smothering mother because she's got her own issues, but nobody doubts that Joan Nancarrow thinks ceaselessly, endlessly, continuously about Lucy, her children, and Cormoran in his life. And Lita Strike, for all her failings, and especially post Troubled Blood, Strike is really fairly clear-headed about Lita's failings as a mom.
Yeah.
It's really the horrible. I mean, just the whole commune experience. End of argument, right? Lita's got her problems. Just not quite thinking clearly about how she'd be taking care of her children. But she never leaves her kids. She does leave her kids. She takes them to the Nancarrows and makes sure they're situated. But she doesn't abandon her kids. And when she becomes pregnant with Jeff Whitaker, it really seems plausible that she could have terminated the pregnancy, could have killed the child. And yet, for Lita Strike, that's just not in the cards. That she just doesn't abandon them, and she may take care of them the way she should, but there's definitely this elision of self and other where she just loves her kids.
Yeah.
And that's how Cormoran Strike survives the madness of his childhood, is this love of his mother. Because he has a bad dad, Nick. You didn't mention the bad dad. Johnny Rokeby, he's right up there with the bad dads. So I got to come up with one more. I'm torn here. I've talked about Jack's mom already, and how his referring to that mom opens up and saves them from Crusher. And we've talked about the mother who appears, J.K. Rowling herself with her daughter, and how that child's, care for her blue bunny, which is a reflection of the mother's love she feels, saves the blue bunny. He's found. I've talked about that. I want to go with Tessa Wall,
wow.
Casual Vacancy.
Yeah.
Because Tessa Wall, she's diabetic, which always makes pregnancies problematic. And she desperately wants a child, and she forces her husband. And I think you pointed out this was a pregnancy trap, that that Tessa Wall traps her husband into adopting a child that he is not psychologically really capable of dealing with. And that is one troubled boy, whether it's from his probably incestuous conception to his longing for authenticity, what's real. But she never gives up on him.
No.
When she finally drills him. She finally drills him with some truth
love.
there.
Yeah.
But that is long delayed. She's constantly, smoothing it over throughout Casual Vacancy. But that scene where he's in the car and she just lays out, here's the story. Here's you hate your dad, you think he's a worthless, POS. Here's what your dad has done. Your dad has done this for me, and that was great. I mean, and it rescues. He was in the bad dad category, and all of a sudden he makes a big switch. All of a sudden he's a good dad. Yeah, that was a great one. So, mother's love, though, again, is Rowling's go-to trope or thread, whatever you want to call it, when she wants to show this love of Christ. I didn't put Christian symbolism and archetypal symbolism is in the tools is in the thing. But when Rowling wants to take a plot point to illustrate this love of Christ, she uses mom. And all right, well, I've gone over my 4 minutes probably for this. But I got to bounce one back at you. And how about writing about story writing and story reading? What about
Okay. So. Any author worth their salt, what they're going to want to do is write about what they know. What's J.K. Rowling? Well, she's a reader and she's a writer. So we see her first sort of self-insertion, and she's admitted to it, is Hermione Granger. It's sort of a caricature of how she saw herself as a school child. Always reading. Always trying to get the boys to read. And whenever there's a problem, she goes to the library. Remember when she was writing Harry Potter, she was a reader, but I think she felt a little shy of saying she was a writer before she was published. So her self insert in there, she does all the schoolwork and stuff, but Hermione Granger is a reader.
I'm gonna interrupt you here and say,
okay.
Hermione is a reader, and she's a careful reader. She always sees beneath not only the text but the narratives, and then she inserts herself with the Daily Prophet interview.
Yeah.
As a writer, someone who's going to manipulate the narrative, and that's someone who's. So I see your points. That Hermione is a great instance of Rowling's writing about reading and writing is how to read and how to write, how to do narrative, work in narrative. But that's only one though, Nick. You got two more.
You got two more. Okay, so I'm gonna for my second one, I'm gonna say all of the writers in the Silkworm. All of the writers in the Silkworm. So we've got the fabulous caricatures of Quine and Fancourt, a successful author and a not very successful author. And I always think of them when I'm thinking about Lake Inspiration. We have Fancourt very definitely says that what he writes is not autobiographical. And yet, what does he write about? Well, he writes about the house and the death of Joe North and his friendship with Owen Quine in House of Hollow. We know that. Quine writes about the same thing in the Balzac brothers. The suicide of Fancourt's wife. He writes about that in a novelized form, and again he says it's not autobiographical. But if you want to find out more about what I think about, read my latest. So they're both of these authors are using Lake Inspiration. Golden threads. So Strike and Robin talk about Owen Quine's work, why does he keep using the same images? Why does he keep on using the same tropes? Well, and I think it's Robbins says, well, maybe because the readers haven't got what he's trying to get across. So is there some point that we're trying to get across with these golden threads? Catherine Kent. So when we covered the silkworm episode, we talked about Catherine Kent. When she's talking about writing, she's talking about Lake and Shed.
No, she's talking about Shazette and Fabula.
Yeah,
which is really the key to understanding how a writer writes.
Yeah.
And how a reader is supposed to how a reader experiences story. I mean, boy, that's the gold mine there, is this her dropping the bomb, like, just this embedded author, what I would have been if I didn't have any talent, talking about really what writing is about. That's a big. Wait a minute. So you said all of the authors, so you don't get to count all of those as separate ones. What's your third?
That's one. I got a third. So my favorite is J.K. Rowling writes about the author she does not want to be, and that's Professor Fraudisham in the Ichabod. So. Professor Fraudisham is the author that writes the story that the fan wants to hear. So as he's going through his completely made up and authors, they tell lies for a living. Fiction authors, that's what they do. But Professor Fraudisham changes the story almost line by line when he gets feedback from his audience in the court. And by the time he's finished, you've got this complete mash of a description of this creature that means absolutely nothing at all. And
both the fraud and the sham.
And I love it. So that's for me, that's J.K. Rowling, and she's often said, she writes what she wants to write. She loves hearing what fans think about her work. I don't know if she's seen this series yet, but she loves hearing what fans say about her work. But she doesn't write for the fans. So it's no good saying, we want a Strike-Ellacott kiss in The Hallmark Man. Because she's not, if that's not in the story, it's not in the story. Okay. So that's my 3 points. That's my 3 points.
Really, that last one, that Fraudisham one, makes me want to go back through every single book and do this one. That's the most important one, I think. That's great. I'm glad you chose that one. What do I get? What do I get here?
Okay, so this is one that I've read a few of the posts on Hogwarts Professor, but I don't know enough about it, and I'd love to hear more. So, what about the ghosts in her work?
Okay. Everybody knows the ghosts. Everybody goes, "Oh, I know the ghosts," and they start naming all the ghosts at Hogwarts. Especially Nearly Headless Nick and. Friar and the Gray Lady. I mean, everybody knows the ghost and the Bloody Bear and they're comic. They're there for effect, and it's great. It's a gothic trope she wants to check the box on. But when Harry meets his parents, in Goblet of Fire and the scene in the little Hangleton Graveyard. Whoa, these are ghosts. I mean, these are shadows. These people are talking to him like they know him and they love him. Whoa, that's an exteriorization that nobody expected. And then you see them most tellingly and movingly when Harry goes into the forest again. And not only are his parents there, but Sirius is there and Lupin makes an appearance. People that really loved him and cared for him, and that's something. That's probably one of the most quoted lines of Albus Dumbledore is, "Those we love never truly leave us," and that's the ghost. But after Harry Potter, there's a suggestion in Harry Potter. This is something I only realized looking back after looking from what we see, and especially in the Form and Strike series, is that I'm confident that if you go back through Harry Potter, you're going to see instances where Harry is suddenly inspired, where it would make sense that some sort of ghost dropped a line on him, that his parents were taking care of him, that they never truly left him, and they were helping him. Now, that is something that we see. The next one. The Casual Vacancy, the next one. You have the ghost of Barry Fairbrother. Now that looks like it's just kids and people, playing on the computer and playing a role, that they're giving voice to the ghost of Barry Fairbrother. But I think it's credible to think that, the ghost of Barry Fairbrother is inspiring them, literally, spiritually moving them to expose something criminal, and that he's only aware of now that he's in the psychic realm, looking down at these things, that he hasn't moved on. He's kind of like these ghosts at Hogwarts. His death was so sudden and traumatic, as he's getting the first part of Casual Vacancy, that he sticks around and he wants people to see what's going on. Sure, by the end, everybody sees what's going on in their lives through this ghost and his texts that everybody has to interpret. Now that's again, these are the ones that he's just marked the ghost. Then there's a ghost which is not a ghost in the Ichabod, which I think I talked about this in the Ichabod thing, where the Ichabod song is interpreted. It's an embedded text. Is embedded text on our list? I think it is. Okay.
Yeah.
The Ichabod song is one of the embedded texts in the Ichabod, and that interpretation is closed with Daisy Dovetail not begging for her life, but saying, when you eat me, when you decide to chow down, and maybe give me a little more weight here after all my years in the orphanage, if you chow down on me, please eat my heart last, because that's where my parents are still alive, and I want them to stay alive as long as possible. And in fact, Daisy Dovetail is haunted by the spirits of her family and the love that she had in him. Woo! That to me was a big ghost moment. Maybe you're saying, oh, it's not a ghost, a memory, whatever. But that she says they're still alive in my heart, to me suggests that ghost element. And then there's the ghosts of Cormoran Strike. And I did the original work on this with Troubled Blood, with Margot Bamborough, that when she dies, almost immediately, tremendous changes happen in that world. First, Una, the night of, Una goes across the street and has this epiphany that she needs to be a priest. That she felt that her best friend would just hate that idea. Well, now Margot Bamborough is in the psychic realm, and she's saying, "Damn, yeah, you need to be a priest. Here we are. This is reality. There's something up here. It's not just your life on the planet." And a sense of judgment too, that she was trying to get Una to move away from being the bunny symbol of Christ to being a pastor symbol of Christ. So that was a wow. But then the bigger one was Gloria Conti. Gloria Conti, she gets pregnant, and Margot Bamborough takes her to the equivalent of abortion clinic, takes her to an abortuary. Woo! And contrary to all the things that she had told her friends and her husband about, that her having her own child changed everything about that. Bang, instant trouble. Let's fix the problem here. Let's get rid of this baby. Well, as soon as she's done, all of a sudden, Gloria Conti feels the voice of Margot Bamborough in her head saying, here's what you need to do. You need to get out of the country. You need to get away from this, which is what Margot Bamborough could have done when she was alive. And it never occurred to either one of them, but suddenly occurs to and she talks about feeling this presence of Margot Bamborough. Robin, who is at that same age as Margot Bamborough, is haunted by Margot Bamborough throughout that book, as well as by the victims of Dennis Creed. Robin is a brilliant woman, and she studies things well, but she knows every detail of this case, especially what Margot Bamborough was wearing when she disappeared, and everything. She can't forget any of the details. I think it's because they're alive and they're present to her, especially the victims. That she constantly is able to throw out details from their lives, and she talks about seeing their images and how they haunt her, haunting. That's the ghosts that are available. Now, I did that, and I begged Louise Freeman. I said, if they're here, they must be in the other books. And Louise Freeman did a survey of the 4 books before Troubled Blood. She found, the ghosts inside all those books, and ghosts are a big deal in Rosemary's Home. So it's a trope from Nabokov that his potosteronos, this spiritual realm, that this haunting reality, this spiritual dimension, just outside your line of vision here, is what is the greater reality. So yeah, ghosts. The ghosts, though, aren't one like a pregnancy trap. It's an obvious plot point in the line. You have to really look through the text and say, "Oh, there's a ghost." Now, there's the comic ghosts, but and then there's the ghosts that appear via magical devices like the resurrection stone. But those ghosts are there. They testify that reality is a dimension that we just can't see. Rowling is embedding that to deliver that meaning to her attentive readers. It's especially those that think of her as someone running romance dramas. Is that she's trying to give you an ontological hierarchy, where the levels of being exist, so that your soul is what survives, and so that means that the body is much less important. Again, this will get you into mortality and morality. But do I pass the ghost test, Nick?
You passed the ghost test with flying colors.
All right. Well, can you give me pregnancy traps in less than 2.5 hours?
No.
Yeah, that's not fair. I mean, you get pregnancy traps. I mean, all you have to do is say, "See my previous work." Wait, see my previous work. I'm the one who did most of that work.
Yeah.
What's going on here? So, what are your big 3 for pregnancy traps? Wait, is that mine? Wait a minute, that's mine.
That's yours. But I'm willing to repeat my favorite pregnancy trap.
No. I'm taking that one.
Okay.
My lists are confusing here.
But you better include my favorite one.
Yeah, I hope I do. But I'm looking at my list. I want you to give me violence against women. Come on, that's a simple one. Violence against women. Wait. Ding, ding, ding. You can do Harry Potter in 1 book. Ding, ding, ding. I got it.
So we know that J.K. Rowling is a survivor of coercive control, violence by men against women, sexual violence by men against women. Yes, it's going to be a theme, and we see it right from the beginning. So we see it in Harry Potter. That for me, the most visual image of male violence against women that she paints is in the Quidditch World Cup. When the Death Eaters come, and it's the farmer's wife, I think it is, and they sort of parade her suspended. You can see up her skirt. It's humiliating. It for a children's book, it really is a very powerful image. We see it repeated in the Ichabod. We don't see the actual violence, but absolutely we see the coercive control of male coercion against women. I mean, if you want to see, and none of us do, but you Ichabod, are going to see. Sorry?
Have you finished with the Ichabod?
Yeah, I think I was just going to briefly skirt
name
over.
the woman. Who's the woman who gets abused there?
So Lady Esmeralda.
Okay.
Gets locked up against her will. But that was an aside. That's not one of my 3. I still get another 2. Jump. Okay. Still get another 2. But violence against women, then career of evil, and all of that to see for the darkest, most inhumane treatment of men against women and violence against women. Then there's the Donny chapters. Still shuddering. I'm on a reread right now in preparation for the Hallmark Man, and I'm still steeling myself on those chapters.
And seriously, as I said this before, but as a man reading those books,
Yeah.
that book, it just causes you to reflect on every relationship you've had with a woman and women that you've known and stuff like that.
Yes.
And it could have just been a feminist screed,
Yeah.
like an Angela Carter piece or something, but instead it is really forces every reader into self-reflection, just a greater awareness of just this core reality of being human. Anyway, I'm sorry,
but moving on for the self-reflection theme, but for a good socialist, new age man, liberal, enlightened person that I am, you want some self-reflection, someone with my mindset. Then there's the Valentine's Dinner from Hell in Troubled Blood, where frankly Strike in Vino Veritas eviscerates that soft intellectualization of the structural oppression of women. The idea that sex work can ever really be work and is not just a manifestation of male coercion against women, well, it's just nonsense. Self-reflection, that gave me a lot of self-reflection, that chapter. So that's my 3.
Well, but what's even best about that scene is not only is Strike attacking loosey-goosey feminism, turning your back, and that's in a way it's about the trans wars, because here you have women supposedly speaking up for women while allowing the institutional abuse of women for profit. Just like, there it is. Again, when people go through these books looking for like the trans war elements, they don't talk about that dinner party. But that's what Rowling, I think, is definitely talking about, and not very different. But also inside that story is Strike is abusing Robin while he's making this case. And what does she do? She calls him on it. She takes him outside and she drills him. And Strike finally, he apologizes. He says up to that moment, he had never apologized. He just waited it out, especially with Charlotte. There's no point in continuing the discussion. Instead, he says, "Hey, that was abusive." Whew! Magnificent scene. And the Cupid and Psyche thing, the whole part about Valentine's Day. That was a wow. So I've already talked about pregnancy traps. I'm going to take the pregnancy.
You've got 4 minutes to include my favorite one.
Well, I'm going to do 3 or 4, and you're going to give me the one that I didn't put on my list in my 10 minutes of preparation for this thing. All right, I shouldn't say that. It was at least 40 minutes. The pregnancy traps. Number 1 is Merope Gaunt. The foundation crime is Marvolo Grant's abuse of that, but the crime, which the play out of that crime, is Merope Gaunt's pregnancy trap to get Tom Riddle Sr. to love her with magic potion, love potion, and that gives us the Dark Lord. That out of that birth comes the Dark Lord. He's really the first boy who lived, but that was a pregnancy trap. There it was, right at the heart of the Harry Potter story, right at the very bottom. You don't get it until really well into the series, right? We're in the pensieve at the very end when we finally get this thing, or close to the end. Then there's the pregnancy trap of Crystal Whedon. She's raped by a man who could have been her father. And she says, "I got to get out of this place." And she goes and she tries to get Fats to impregnate her, which of course results in the death of Robbie and the agony tragedy of the story, which is sort of like the birth of Lord Voldemort. Again, we have that but the pregnancy trap is the climactic tool, right, at the finish. And we already talked about Tessa Wall, and now she pregnancy traps her husband. And finally, I don't think this is your favorite, your key here, is lead a strike. I mean, that's the whole point of the strike novels. And the strike doesn't exist except for the pregnancy trap on the beanbag chairs in the New York City bar in front of, 40 people, according to Ropey's agent there, Carl Bryce Oakton. But my favorite thing about the Lady Strike stuff is she gets caught in a pregnancy trap. I'm convinced Jeff Whitaker, turned this thing around and said, "Hey, that worked for you. How about it works for me?" And so she gets bamboozled into having a child. That, yeah. Again, see the stuff we did. I mean, it's well. But what's the one I missed, Nick? What's the good one that I left out?
So you trapped me on the podcast. You made me do all the kids' books looking for pregnancy traps. And there I found my favorite in The Christmas Pig. The Christmas Pig himself is a pregnancy trap. So he's an unwanted toy, an unwanted child given by the sister to the brother to repair and cement a relationship.
Okay. That may be the only pregnancy trap that actually worked out in the end. Yeah. That was a good pregnancy trap. But yeah, I mean, seriously, when you take these threads and much like you do with when you identify, Rowling's Freudian family drama, the lower middle class in the shadow of the manor house, abusive father, a small family, and you say, okay, I'm just going to take this image and walk through her work. Oh, bang! There's another. The same thing with the pregnancy traps. When you go through the works looking for it, and you have that formula in your head, you say, "Oh my gosh, there's another." All right, it's my turn to media deception or the captured media, where they're the voice piece of some greater power or something. Give me three of those, Nick.
I got to lead with Jenkins, haven't I? So, Culpepper. So Culpepper, when he's introduced, I mean, you're never going to call him a sympathetic character, but he's doing something good. So he's exposing a corrupt government minister. He's not.
When he's manipulated to do it, right? I mean,
well. Yes. So his motivation is readership. So Culpepper's motivation is leadership. I mean, we see him later in Career of Evil. He wants to break off all contact with Strike because Strike didn't pick up the phone to Culpepper as soon as he got mailed a severed leg. So I mean, his capture is entirely for commercial reasons. So his senior management, they only care about readership and sales, and that's the grubby side of Fleet Street. I mean, the textbook definition of what a tabloid reporter is. The Daily Prophet, of course, is entirely captured. Both before and after the ministry falls, and we have that caricature of the tabloid reporter Rita Skeeter and her method of writing down what she wants the person to have said rather than what they actually said. But essentially,
I'm interrupting.
That's
her
okay.
name. Her name, is Reed a Skeeter. Reed a mosquito, a blood-sucking parasite. And that's what you're gonna get. I was just like, wow. I mean,
and she ends up being a bug anyway. Yeah. So but that if we're talking about a captured organ, that is the capture. But it's in terms of the popular press, all through Rowling's work, it's treated pretty much as an annoyance or with disdain. So it's continually disruptive to the operation of the Strike-Ellacott agency. As soon as there's a story breaking, there's reporters doorstepping them on the front door. They need to move somewhere else. But also, I think most effectively in Cuckoo's Calling. So we have a British satirical magazine called The Private Eye, and they're very good actually at looking at press output and spotting the weak and the cliched. And there's a few times it's mentioned in Cuckoo's Calling that Private Eye have run a column. So many talked about the death of Lula in terms of Icarus that Private Eye put out a special column.
Okay, that's is that your three?
That's my three.
I'm disappointed you didn't mention Ellen Toffler or whatever, the love interest in Ink Black Heart, because she's totally vapid.
Yes. Yeah.
Strike, she's a talking head, and Strike just can't stand talking to her. There's no insight, there's no depth. I was just like, oh man, that may be her most devastating image yet, because Rowling has talked to all those people.
Yeah.
I mean that's always, reporters during the Potter period, they loved Harry Potter because there was this Christian backlash, the Potter panic. And they were absolutely blind to the Daily Prophet and Rita Skeeter. I was just doing it's like, and teachers loved Harry Potter. And I was like, wow, have you been to the Hogwarts faculty lounge? This is so bizarre to me. They say that satire is the mirror that you can never see your own reflection in. And I was like, yeah, baby. All right. Okay, you hit that one out of the park. What do I get?
So you have got Lost Child, Grieving Caretaker.
Okay.
4 minutes, John.
Wow. This is as big as Pregnancy Traps. This could go for 2.5 hours. I actually, have a list here I'm looking at that has 25 of these, Nick.
Wow.
Which, that's a lot, Nick. But my big, I got it down to 5. There's the whole Lita Lestrange for Corvus, that she spends her entire life, that dream sequence that I'm not sure if they even made it to the movie where she's dancing and all of a sudden you see the drowning child. And that everything in her life is about the fact that she, switched the babies and this child died. And she's trying to find the Corvus that got switched and stuff like that. I mean, this was the Lita Lestrange story that got lost in Crimes of Grindelwald. Then there's a vet. I want to go right into Cormoran Strike because really this is coming more and more to the fore inside the books. I mean, you can say Lily Potter and Merope Gaunt are unhappy mothers, grieving for their children that survived or didn't survive. But really, the mourning mother or the grieving caretaker. I've already done Lita Lestrange. You can do Aberforth Dumbledore there too, in terms of his grieving for Ariana and for Aurelius Dumbledore. But I'm gonna go with the ones that were most striking to me out of Cormoran Strike. The one that was most moving to me in a way was Brian Tucker for his daughter Louise.
Yeah.
Talk about a man who's haunted. I mean, that Louise Tucker is alive. Louise Tucker is won't let her father go. Find my killer, find my body. And Tucker's obsession, he's ready to throw bombs in the TV studios and stuff like that. There's no prisoners here. And then there's the more subtle ones like Della Wynne for Rhiannon. That her daughter committed suicide because of Chisel's son's cruelty to her. And that blind woman in her house sitting beneath the portrait of her daughter. I mean, Nick, that was Ariana Part 2. That was a wow. Here, the ghost of this lost child, shaping the entire story. There's Yvette Bristow for Charlie. The woman basically went mad after essentially her second adopted child murdered her first adopted child. Or was it the other way around? Was John first and then Charlie? whatever. The murder there is, she's unglued. She keeps Charlie's picture on her nightstand, and no picture of John there. And finally, there's Running Grave, and Louise Pirbright and her tortured son Jacob. That's the rawest thing. When Robin comes out of the Skinner box on steroid, her torture chamber, and she has been broken down to, talk about the end of the Negretto for Robin. When she's broken down outside that box, and she's become a ghost of herself. She is able to, she's able to pinpoint Strike by sole GPS, and that's when she encounters the mutilated child that's just been kept alive all this time, and Louise, and she gets to see this exteriorized form, a way of something in her about her own grief. That's a wow moment. And there's more. And there's Gloria Conti for the child she killed. There's Barbara Graves for her son Alexander. There's Sally Edensor for her son Will, that kind of drives this thing. There's Mum and Holly for Jack when he's absent. They don't know what's going on. There's Cormoran Strike for Charlotte's baby. There's Marlene Hickson. It's kind of a comic thing, but she misses her daughter Lula. Anyway, that's a real thing. And if you look at Albus Dumbledore as kind of like the great wise man in the series, when he looks in the Mirror of Erised, he's not seeing a guy getting socks. He's seeing Ariana back alive.
Yeah.
And his family healed. That his sister hadn't been raped by Muggles, avenged by her father, but more importantly, that she hadn't died consequent to his argument with Gellert Grindelwald and with Aberforth. That feeling of responsibility and grief and remorse we see in the cave scene of Half-Blood Prince is the nightmare agony, the foundation wound that makes Albus Dumbledore who he is.
Yeah.
So this, we're going to do a longer look at the lost child grieving caretaker thing, because it's so pervades her work. It's at least as pervasive as the pregnancy traps.
Yeah. Wow, John, that's great, and I think you're right. I think that deserves at least an episode all to itself. But I'm going to call time. I'm calling time, John.
You're saying I spent more than 4 minutes on something that pervades every single thing in her work that we haven't talked about yet? Okay. Yeah. You get media capture, Okay, I get lost child.
I was getting nervous about because I think I'm due the next one. I was getting nervous what it's going to be, but I'm gonna suggest we meet back again tomorrow, and then carry on from there. What do you think?
That's great. I'm happy to have more time to look into these things. No, seriously, the golden threads to even do them as cursely as we're doing this now. I hope it makes people do oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There really is something that goes through this, and that Rowling has talked about it in the Foundation novel, the first novel that she actually wrote of the Cormoran Strike series in Silkworm. That why are these tropes constantly appearing? Oh, it's because they want the message hasn't been delivered yet. It can be that it's the lake keeps pumping this thing out, but also that people aren't seeing this yet. So that'll have to be the end of our conversation tomorrow. Is what does she think we're not seeing with some of these threads? Because people have talked about these things before, but not systematically. Let's go through every work and do that. And that's if there's a single task that is right in front of us in Rowling Studies today in the fourth generation, that's it. Let's look at the whole thing. Let's put aside the Twitter headers for a minute. That's all very exciting, but let's do the groundwork necessary so that we can begin to understand Rowling's artistry and meaning, its roots in her life, but really what she's trying to deliver from the story substance she gets out of the lake. That's the wow. All right. So
That's
tomorrow,
great.
more golden threads.
More golden threads. Brilliant. Look forward to it. Take care, John.